Okay guys, today I'm going to show you my classic Yasuo deck. Now, basically what classic Yasuo is, if you don't know, is Noxus and then Ionia, and it's Katarina, Yasuo as basically the core elements, right? Why Katarina and why do I have three of them? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Number one, I made this for Iron. So for low tier games, it's best to have a simple, strong deck than a very complex one because luck is a thing. But also, the first iteration of Yasuo utilized Cat to get multiple attacks on a turn and you get recalls. So if you do get Cat, you can get free recalls so that Yasuo flips faster. Also, you can get multiple rallies, like I said. So first off, we're going to start with like 3 Guiles. Just a very cheap stun. And this could be 5 damage in late game. Arena Battlecaster is one that I've always thought about running in this deck. It's fine. It helps out sometimes, especially with Fey Blade Twirler. This one is just pretty much straightforward, but if you don't have a stun or recall, Battlecaster kind of allows him to get that 1-up. This will definitely rotate out for something because Yasuo always kind of gets to be more of a control-centric deck, but once again, I'm in Iron. I can kind of use this card and kind of get more of these like easier wins. Steel Tempest, I have 2 of them. It's an easy stun card. Once again, you're control, so you're gonna be a lot of times you're gonna be playing safe, waiting for a good opportunity to strike. Steel Tempest is just a nice 2-mana card to have. It's really cheap. Arachnid Sentry is one of the original cards that released on LOR, and it is one of the highest focal points of the deck, and it's always good to have. Cooling Strike is one that I have in Iron just to deal with stupid threats like Ezreal, Teemo, just something dumb that you can't really get rid of through stunning, especially something that's so abrupt in the early game. This is a good card to kind of help you get out of the early game, get into your strength of the mid game. Once again, talked about Katarina. You get a Blaze Edge, so you can deal 1 damage to anything, and so that could be pretty useful. But it's really not. It's just kind of icing on the cake. It's really not the core part of it, right? The biggest thing is that once I've struck, I recall, so it's basically 3 damage. And then when she flips, she's 4 damage and she rallies. So basically, it's kind of like, I forgot what the 3-mana card is in Demacia, where it's like a Lucian and he's dashing and it's rally. 3-mana cost rally. Literally, this is deal 4 damage and rally. The only catch is that you can kill her. But once again, when she strikes, she recalls. There's only a few ways to get around it. So unless you're playing against like Frostbite, I think that's what it's called. When you make her attack 0, like with Sharima, yeah, you're pretty much fine to go. Next, Thorn of the Rose, just to get more Guiles, and it's a 5-1 that I can block. This is pretty good in the early game. If they do something ridiculous, you can trade 1 for 1 and you get a Guile that can prove to be very useful. Concussive Palm essentially can be a removal spell if you have Yasuo out, and a 3-2 blocker or attacker. So this is pretty much a good overall around good card and kind of a staple in my opinion for the deck. Honestly, Yasuo, the center of the deck, before he flips, stun a recall, you have to deal 2 to it. And then after 5, he strikes them, which sometimes is better, sometimes is worse. When you face against Freyord, it's funny watching them Frostbite Yasuo, and you can still stun and recall and deal damage. but once again, it's kind of weak because he has to strike it. But there's a lot of good things you can do with this, but because I'm in Iron and it's classic Yasuo, we're kind of keeping it very simple, just mainly just stuns, just very reliable, and a lot of good cards in Ionia and Noxus that can really utilize Yasuo. And he's kind of the focal point, but the most important thing about a Yasuo deck is don't make it so focused on Yasuo, where if you don't have him, you can't do anything. Don't do that. You can stall, but you also have good ways to win. That's why Katarina is really good. It's because it's a pest, and you kind of control the game through her. And most players will kind of hesitate or make bad decisions because of it. Good players, however, knows what to do against it, which is basically just if you have a way to kill her, kill her. If not, don't block her. Keep your guys. She has to recall so you can have an opening. So there's advice if she slaps you around. Decisive maneuver, stun an enemy, give all eyes +2/+0 this round. I only have 2. The reason is just because it's a big buff. Stronger, simple strength is strong in lower brackets. So this kind of, if I have like 4 to 5, I can just stun someone, buff them, we all go in. Pretty simple, easy victory. Intimidating roar can be a board wipe if you have Yasuo. Very important. If you have Yasuo, very big card, can do a lot. Legion General, I have 3 of them. He's a win condition. This card allows your cards to feel like they have good value when you stun enemies in the early game, even if you don't have Yasuo. Because then you can play him, and he'd be like an 8/8, 10/10, and you're fearsome, so you can't just block him with like a 1/1 spider. And it's a pretty good card. It's just simple, it's strong, you just swing in. They have to trade their win condition with this guy, and he's only 5 mana. So you're really not losing too much. Minotaur Reckoner. Round start, stun the weakest enemy. What I've seen that a lot of people do is they will just tunnel vision on this guy and will dump so much to stop him. And I laugh every single time because he's such a good card. But it's just, I love watching people just dump all their removal on him. And I feel like, it accomplishes something, but people tend to rush to find a solution instead of waiting for the right time. Just advice on beat it. Obviously, he's such a big bomb. I normally do just drop him turn 6 because basically people do tunnel vision, like I was saying, and that's why it's so funny. You drop him turn 6, people panic, and they need to stop him, and they try to find the best way to do so. Yo Wind Chaser, only have 2 in my deck. The reason, pretty simple. If you have 3, you kind of get them too much, and you don't really use them often. As often as you might think. He's a huge card, but if you compare him to Reckoner, like, this card will do more than Yon will. So that's something to consider. That's why I don't have 3. And I think I took 1 Yon out for Swiftfoot. And the reason is literally just because it recalls 3 enemies. And so in very, very late game scenarios, I would love to have her and just scoop up the field. And that would kind of help things go a lot quicker. That is the deck, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just final tip, this deck is for Iron. I'm going to be renovating it and making it more of a high tier deck as we go, but this is like when the game first started. This is kind of like the first irritate, like this is kind of the basic idea of a basic classic Yasuo deck. But look for my new videos.